synths on it. You know, we're talking 1982, and you know, I had all the Kraftwerk stuff, and even for people out there, this band, I think from Austria, called Yellow. Big fan of Yellow, and you know, all the weird experiment stuff. Obviously, Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd. I got that record on my birthday when I was 7 actually. And I remember taking that record to school because every Friday afternoon we were able to play records at school, and then you know, kids would bring records with like kids songs and stuff. So I came with Dark Side of the Moon, and I remember playing the track on the run. I'm not sure if you know that track. It's like and then kids started crying, and the teacher called my parents. What the fuck I was thinking. So that's where my fascination for synths come from. And yeah, so in 1982, actually something bad happened that actually led to a lot of good things. Like my parents got divorced, and my father wanted to move to a different part of Holland, and I went with him. And so I was studying still like in high school, and I was looking for a job on the weekend. So there was like a small little music store in the town that we lived, and I went over there and I said to the guy, I'm looking for a job, and he says, well, I have no work for you. And so next week I come back, it's like, I'm looking for a job, and the guy says, I have no work for you. Next week I go back, I'm looking for a job, okay, fuck, why don't you start? So that's when I got my job at that store. What was really beautiful though is that this was in a time period where people started trading in by the masses all these really old synths for new stuff. And I remember we sold the DX7 and the Juno 106, and then later the D50, especially when the D50 and the M1 came out. That's when the exodus of everything that was old really started happening. And I put so much extra time into that store. So this store started as a really small store where you could buy like a few guitar and guitar amps, and I convinced the owner of the store to get an Atari 1040 ST with you know, with the dongle. And most of you probably don't remember, but some of you do. When Pro 24 came out, which was made by and the Cubase guy and the Logic guy when they were still buddies. Now they're enemies. So now there's Logic and there's Cubase. So when Pro 24 came out, and with Masterlist as a program right next to it to prep the score, it was an experiment for the guys who released it, and it was an experiment for the users. And so I convinced the owner of the store to get the Atari with the software and 1 or 2 synths. And I really started to figure out how this stuff worked, and I got relatively good at it. And before we knew it, we became the #1 seller in the Netherlands for synthesizers and Cubase and you know, everything that was related. So this guy was very happy with me. And so we made a deal that everything that was traded in, I could buy off him for the trade value that was given to him. And you have to understand, in 1983-84, you could not give away a memory MOOC. You could not give it away. It was very big, it was heavy, with big knobs, but boy did that thing sound fantastic. So yeah, we traded it in for $100 for a D50, and then they had to slap like another $3 grand on top, and they were walking out of the store completely happy with the Roland D50, which was a revolutionary synth at the time. But at that time, I was stocking up, you know, like all these synths, and some of the jewels that I was able to buy for $150 was, for instance, for the guys that are familiar with it, Korg PS3100, 3200, 3300, a synth that if you can find it online, it's worth between 50 and 80,000 pounds. And I have no intention of selling it, but you know, just like the whole CS series, CS10, 15, 20, 40, the 70M, the 60, the 80, everything. I took everything, and I was piling it up in a you know, storage, and I loaned it to different people. And when I came to America in 2002 to live here and to pursue a film scoring career, obviously I didn't came with like guns blazing. You know, just I had a very small studio. Funny enough, on Abbot Kinney in Venice, which was very affordable in 2002. Now you need to, you know, you need to break the bank to even, you know, buy a coffee there, right? But not in 2002. And I had a very small studio with just a Pro Tools setup and Cubase and small plugins. And I started slowly building my career. And finally, I bought a house in 2014 in the Valley. in Tarzana, and that was the time period. Now that I had space, I started one by one shipping all the synths out that I have in Holland, and I'm still waiting for 50. You know, so I've got roughly 160 shipped. There's another 50 still waiting there. And yeah, and then these synths arrived, and then I had them fixed. I had them clean up. I'm blanking on his last name, but I do want to give a credit to this guy. His name is Chris. He used to be the repair guy for Perfect Circuit Audio. And I'm blanking on his last name, but he's been so incredibly wonderful repairing my synths for the last 6 to 8 years. And he puts the same amount of love and care into the synths that I do, you know. I wake up in the morning and sometimes I go into the studio and it's like, oh, this can't be like that. And then I get cleaning materials, and then 2 hours long I'm like dusting and cleaning the synths until they look like spick span new. Because they're my children, you know, just like you gotta take care of them. So.